welcome back to another episode of the Jay and Will Show. I'm Jay.
Will, and it's that football talk.
I mean, come on now, man. You see the shirt from Will, you see the hat. You know what time it is already, man. It's time to recap another Cowboy victory.
Yeah, man.
5-1 record, looking all right, man. We're gonna talk about it today. So, we are recording this the day after the Dallas Cowboys defeated New England Patriots 35-29 in overtime. First road win for the Cowboys in Foxborough since 1996. So yeah, long time coming.
First time that they beat them up there since '87. First time they beat New England.
I'm sorry, you're correct. Thank you for correcting me. That's absolutely right. Yeah.
They've been quoting those days all day. It's like,
you're absolutely right. Yeah, thank you for correcting me on that. Yeah. So, thoughts, man? What are your thoughts about about how the game went down?
So I'm actually, it actually made me pretty happy with how it happened, how bad and ugly it was. It shows they're not strive too early, not having a complete getting complete character when like there's a time to work on. So that's something that McCarthy can harp on just so that during this, he gave them like the whole week off, but coming back is basically giving them something to work on. Giving them all the sugar and y'all so great, all this is happening. It's like, yo, I could lost this one. Like, I was fucking up. We had Connor Williams, 3 penalties, 4 penalties, or something like that.
Yeah.
And most of them in the fourth quarter, which was insane because the 2 right there at the end when it was calling the referees and shit, they're bad at their job. It was just one of those ugly games that any previous Dallas team within the past 15 years at least, 20 years, definitely would have lost.
Yeah.
For them to be able to get it done, play ugly, all the penalties, 12 for like 120 something, which is like 115 or something. Insane. You had the turnovers and going against Belichick, like still pulled it off. Like, okay, so this team is talented and able to work around them trying to beat themselves, which is what it seemed like they were trying to do. Then you got Trayvon doing Trayvon things 1 second, and then the next pulling some. It's like both him and KZ. It's like
KZ,
yeah.
KZ.
I think it goes on both of them. I think it goes on both of them. Trayvon, he bid for the double move, and then KZ playing slow, with that being a still. It's just something to clean up, but overall, them being able to pull out that win was great. I told you that they were gonna. Soccer was going to be all about trying to shut down the run and take away Schultz. So he thought he wasn't getting those third down catches like he typically does. Deacon and Pollard had a tough go at it, especially early on. They had a tough go at it, so it just makes sense. Because we can win throwing and running, but when we're running the ball like they had been, folks get steamrolled. So that's I think that was the main thing that Belichick didn't want is for the team to get steamrolled. When you throw a lot more, it does open you up for more penalties like we saw yesterday, the holding and stuff like that.
Good win, man. That's like you said, one of those ones that, in previous years we would have lost. And it was kind of one of those things where it's just like kind of compounding issues on top of each other. Very sloppy game as far as penalties go, like you mentioned. Just kind of just not characteristic. Like we aren't the cleanest team in the world, but I mean at the same time, like there were just a lot of mistakes. It was just like, what are y'all doing?
Yeah.
That kind of reverts back to some of the stuff we kind of gotten accustomed to seeing before this year. So you start to see things kind of reverting back to what we kind of gotten accustomed to when it's kind of like, all right, in these type of circumstances when they do make these compound mistakes and shoot themselves in the foot, they don't usually find a way to get back into those games. And so, there was every reason to kind of, I won't say fold, but, there were certainly opportunities where it looked like, all right, we gonna see if this is the same team or if team really has turned the corner because, the high of having Trayvon have that pick six and then the next play from scrimmage, the low of giving up a 75-yard touchdown pass.
Yeah.
Normally those games you be like, all right, we don't win this game. You know what I mean? Like it's just, you don't in the past we just haven't really been able to overcome those type of situations. But now, the approach is a little bit different and we look at it like, oh, y'all left Dak too much time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you just hope that he's able to take advantage of the opportunity, and he did a tremendous job. You can look at this game. First of all, it's crazy. You talk about how New England likes to be out the quarterback, and they play single high more than anybody in the league. So that means they normally have a loaded box. So I like to put pressure on, but they didn't really use a lot of pressure in this game. Dak had a grand total of 0 sacks in this game. So just, a tremendous job game plan as far as protecting him. Obviously, he was dancing around. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like the pocket was always clean. But he found his way out of it, found the ability to be able to set his feet in some instances and get some decent balls towards the guys to make plays. And, I talked about CD a couple weeks ago. I was just like, I just need to see something. Like, I'm not saying you gotta take over a game, but like I just haven't seen you pop off the screen. And he definitely did it in this one for sure. And we know Amari is not healthy, and so obviously the game plan was probably to take some of his abilities away as well. And plus, obviously, not with him not being 100%, it's a lot to ask for him to be able to be his normal self. And so to have CD come in and play the way he played, where he was kind of quiet for a good part of the game, but when we needed him, he was a dude getting open. He was a dude making plays. So across the middle, the screenplay, I think it was like 34 or something, like made a hell of a play to get those extra yards. Good blocking by Amari to spring him open a little bit on that play. Just clutch play after clutch play, man, taking advantage of how the coverage was. And, one of the things I saw, I try to watch the games back either the next day or the day after before we get opportunity to record. And one of the things that stuck out to me in this game, particularly in the fourth quarter and overtime, was that package they ran where if you remember how Romo was like, they were going to run the same play. Yeah. And how they kind of set them up. They stayed in that same formation the rest of the game, where it was 12 personnel. They had 2 tight ends. They had the 2 guys off to the side, opposite end of the tight ends, and it was single back, and that's all they ran. It was play action every single time. And but the looks they gave were different. So they ran different routes out of the same style of formation. 12 personnel, 2 guys on one side of the field, the tight ends on the opposite side of the field. But they weren't doing the same thing. So it reminded me of what Sean McVay does. Sean McVay stays almost in the same exact formation for a good majority of the game. But they have so many different route combinations in that formation that you don't know what they're going to do. And so to see them do that, I was like, oh, Kellen Moore got chess. He playing chess out here. Because right when you think you figure out what they're going to do, they're playing different. They have different route trees, different combinations. And it's like, I don't know where they're going. And so just seeing that, and it's just like, there's so much that we look at and it's like, dang, man, if they didn't do this or if they didn't do that, they would have won by 40 or they would have put up 50. It's just like, so it's just it's cool for now, because we'll have to admit the level of competition hasn't been great so far in terms of the opponents we played. We got Minnesota coming out of the bye, and then we got like Denver and
Atlanta.
we have Denver and Atlanta.
Atlanta, yeah.
So it's like, all right, well, like the competitions to pick up, and then after Atlanta, we have the Kansas City game, which come into the season, you look at that and say, I don't know. But now we look at it, it's like they can win that game.
Yeah.
Like the way Patrick Mahomes is being with the ball, like you get some pressure on the O-line's not that great. You get pressure on him, move him off the spot. No, that doesn't mean he's not going to be able to be productive, but you still got an opportunity to take some possessions away. And that defense is so atrocious. You're going to score,
Exactly.
So it's like,
can they keep up with us now?
Exactly. So it just, you look at, and I know that a lot of people talk about the schedule. We'll get into all that later, but there are some games we may have looked at before and with like, I don't know. And now it's like, we can win that game. So there's a lot to look forward to, but to put a bow on my thoughts on the game, one of Dak's best games, bro. Just as far as, you talked about last week, feeling like after the Giants game, now he's got an opportunity to really start to take off.
Yeah.
And I felt like he did that in his game. Not the most, there were some of the passes didn't look as sharp as they could have been, but depending on where the defenders are, right? Yeah, depending on where the defenders are, maybe they're not gonna look as sharp. You know what I mean? Like the ball to Amari Cooper last week between the corner and the safety, it looked like it was a bad ball, but the way he put it was like, I gotta put it there to give him a chance to A, not get blown up by the safety, and B, make sure safety doesn't have a chance to pick the ball off. So you see these from different perspective, and it's like on TV live, it looks like they want a good ball, but when you see it afterwards, it was like, okay. So I learned to take his word for it in terms of maybe some balls not looking as sharp as I would think that they should in certain situations. But even still, it seemed like he didn't look as sharp as he could have been, but he still made plays that had to. That 4th and 4 ball, the Cedric Wilson, was a dime, just a dime. So it's just one of those things where it's like now we look at Dak and it's like I said, like they scored the touchdown to Kendrick Bourne. It was just like, y'all left Dak too much time, bro. I would have liked for us to score a touchdown and put the game away, but it is what it is. And last thing I'll say, Randy Gregory.
I love that. I love that hit, the forced fumble.
Bruh. Like they were holding him damn near the whole game. And when they didn't hold him, he got to the quarterback.
Exactly.
So it was just to see him where he's at and knowing that Tank is not even back yet. Like, and we'll talk. I'm going to talk about that too later on. Just like all the folks are going to be getting back on the other side of the bye. Maybe not right after the bye, but in the weeks that proceed after that. He just jumped up the screen, bro, and they gotta pay him. I don't know how they're gonna figure it out, but he can't walk. Like they gotta pay him. So I don't know what that means for Tank moving forward, but they gotta pay him. So it is what it is. And then Trayvon Diggs, just he is who he is, like you said, you talked about. The double move was tough. And that's the one thing that's like, because he is the way he is, he might get beat a lot on those because he's trying to jump routes. And he reminds me of what's my guy's name? Marcus Peters. He gambles like that too. And he gets beat because he gambles. Yeah. And so, that's some similarities.
The ball skills.
He has the ball skills, exactly. So it's kind of like you learn to live with that because it's like what he can do. When he's right, what he can do. And so you kind of trust him to be able to make those decisions, to know whether I should jump or I shouldn't, which is why it's even more important, I think, for the safeties to kind of be aware of that. That's why I just hate that angle case he took. But it is what it is. Everybody's going to blame Diggs for that. And not saying, like you said, not saying he's not to blame at all, but it's not all on him. That could have been
it's
rectified.
Both of them.
Because that wasn't a good throw. Like if KZ's angle was right, he could have picked the ball off. So it is what it is. But hats off to those guys. I mean, Belichick gonna have those dudes coached up. You're gonna have the refs, the pockets full. So it just is what it is. That touchdown that they didn't call, I just don't know what. I mean,
his body over the doggone line. Like, what you think he was carrying it with his knees? Like,
right? Because you
can
see his left hand didn't have nothing in it. So I mean,
exactly.
Obviously the ball's in his right hand, and like you said, half the number 4 in the back of the jersey was in the end zone. So it's like, where else do you think the ball was? So
and then, like somebody said on Twitter, they put it at his feet as if he was carrying the ball with his feet. It's like exactly. It's like
what?
If you didn't know where the ball was, why are you going to put it at his feet? Why not put it just short of the goal line then?
Or just because our scoring plays a review, just count it as a touchdown. And if it gets reviewed and it's like, okay, he didn't make it in, then move the ball back. Like, and like when they do with like fumbles and picks, it's like, we don't know. Just say it's a fumble and then we'll review it. Like, I feel like that's an easy decision. But it is what it is. But yeah, good win. Obviously a lot better to go into the bye week after a win than a loss. One of the things I did want to touch on real quick is just obviously at the end of the game we saw Dak limping off and end up in a walking boot. Was diagnosed with a calf strain. The MRI results showed that there was no significant damage, so they don't expect him to miss any time. But obviously, whenever you see him limping off the field like that, it's kind of like, yeah. So anything else on the game you want to before we kind of move forward to the rest of the season?
I'm intrigued of what they're going to do when it comes to run defense. Because overall, the run defense did do well, but then there was just that stretch, like that long drive. They just ran the ball down Dallas' throat to get to 21 when they scored the 21. So it's like, oof, we can't have that. Y'all gotta get your shit together. So that's what's going to be interesting to see them being able to get that together. But outside of that, but as far as the game overall, it was a good win. I think this is something one of those dirty ones that you get a ton of offensive reps out of to be able to fix.
Yeah, and hopefully we're getting Tank back. That kind of helps the run defense and Gallimore as well. Hopefully that depth up front will kind of help them be better at that. Obviously, we know Tank's one of his strengths is defending the run. So hopefully getting those bodies back will help with that. Because if you look at the schedule, about Dalvin. I don't even got to tell you nothing about Dalvin. Coming up next. And then obviously, like we talked about, they got Denver, which, but they got a rookie that's not bad over there. Williams is not bad, and then Atlanta. I know you know about Mike Davis also about what he can do if guys aren't prepared. So, not like murderers roll of running backs, but certainly guys that have the potential to go off if you let them. And then I talked about Dalvin Cook, but Madison's a good back too. So they got they got 2 running back system back in Minnesota that cost fits if we don't stay on top of that. So Tank will be back by then, and Gallimore probably won't be back either. So hopefully they'll have 2 weeks to kind of prepare and get a game plan together for that to be able to. I don't know if you stop Dalvin Cook, but at least
just slow him down.
Yeah, have a manageable game to where he's not taking the game over. Because that'd be bad news. They're gonna need it because I think the game's on Sunday night, and
it is. Oh no! Yeah, Kirk Cousins doesn't do well.
That's where I was going with that. So I was like, they gonna need Dalvin Cook because it's Sunday night game, and Kirk Cousins is not a primetime player, so they're gonna depend on Dalvin Cook in that game. So we gotta be able to at least like you said, slow him down a little bit and make it a manageable game. So yeah, 5-1, looking good. We'll see how the rest of it goes. I had a couple of things I wanted to touch on just to kind of get your thoughts. So, I just wanted to quickly go over a list of folks that we are still missing.
Okay.
Despite being 5-1. So we talked about Tank already. We talked about Gallimore already. Getting Lyle Collins back. And shout. You hear me?
I can hear you.
Good boy. Okay. What about now?
Gotcha.
Okay.
Right.
Not sure what happened there. Sorry about that. So we got, like I said, we talked about Tank earlier, talked about Gallimore earlier, getting Lyle Collins back, and credit to Terrence Steele for what he's been able to do in Lyle Collins' stead. Really appreciate that, and good to know that we do have that swing tackle we've been looking for I don't know how long. So that's good to have that. Michael Gallup, a guy who obviously has been out since week 1. Will be coming back on the other side of the bye as well. But Cedric Wilson deserves a shout out as well because he has stepped up in the absence of him. And that's one of the things that I wanted to kind of toss to you to just keep talk about the depth that we have seemingly for the first time in a long time and how much you think that will help in the long run in terms of the injuries that we are pretty much guaranteed to end up having.
Yeah.
How it feels to know that what we're seeing so far from the backups and the reserves is slowly reducing that drop off that we're normally used to seeing from the replacements that come in when our guys eventually do go down.
It's huge. What was it? I think that was one good thing of last year was that Terrence Steele got so much playing time that even though he did struggle, it was a lost year. Dak wasn't playing. We wasn't going to do anything in the playoffs. So with him being out there, gave him some playing time under the belt so that he struggled so much to where he saw it was like, okay, in the off season, let me put in this work in where I can get better. And he did that. That was some major development for him to be able to do that. Then you have the receiving core because the big thing for the NFL, so it's not necessarily always the best team that wins the Super Bowl. A lot of times it is the luckiest and or the healthiest to get to that point. And that's where your backups come to play. Because just look at Kansas City last year. It's not saying that the Tampa, if Kansas City had their whole offensive line, I think they would have beat Tampa. I think that they would have been able to put a lot more points up on the board because they would have been able to protect Mahomes that much better. Not saying that Tampa's a bad team. It's just, hey, you have Kansas City missing half their offensive line, and that's part of the struggle now. They can't run the ball. They have 2 rookie offensive linemen, I think, on the same side of the ball at that. So it's been really tough. So that's where being able to get that playing time, being able to train up these your second level players is really important. Which is why the preseason helps as well. Being able to get that playing time early on so that they can be able to get to that. So I think that's what's going to be able to help us if they have a chance to turn this into a special season is the fact of having that depth. You want to be able to move people, or not necessarily move people around, but being able to plug people in when there happens to be an injury. Because like right now, a lot of people are hyped up of trading Gallup because Cedric is balling, but it's like Amari's not 100% though.
Right.
It's like at first I was like, yeah, we can trade him for this. And I was like, but Amari's not 100%. So you go from having basically right now 4 awesome receivers to you trade off Gallup. Amari's not healthy. Now you got 2, and then Noah Brown is hit or miss.
Right.
So that things can go left real quick.
Absolutely.
So it's better to, hey, you might as well hold on to If you can find a trade somewhere else, you can do that. But of course, the receiving core, nah. I think just because between the cap strength for Gallup and then Amari constantly battling through injuries, it's like, yeah, I need to go ahead and hold on to him. Linebacker core is pretty thick as well, just because the different players been able to move them around. I still want them to be able to look at having a safety to move down and play more like a linebacker as well, because I think that will be able to allow Michael Parsons more at the end, being able to pressure the quarterback. And then also, after the bye, I think he's going to have to be that spy on Dalvin Cook, kind of like what he was doing for Saquon before Saquon got hurt. He was basically that's why they kept him at linebacker during the game instead of pass rush, was because of Saquon. You got when it's a good running back, you need to have your top-notch linebacker on the field to be able to deal with him. So I think that's one situation. And then when it comes to the secondary, you have Boss Man. He's getting ready to come back, so that being able to put him on that left side where Anthony Brown is going to be huge. Because now you have Anthony Brown, who has overall has been having a really good season, especially since the first 2 games. He's been playing much better, but still being able to add that additional depth on it, it just helps the team. And then you have Randy Gregory balling the last 3 games like he has. Has it been? He has 4 sacks now, 2 per game in the last 4 in the last 2 games. And then so Tank going to be on the other side doing his thing. And then you got Greg on this side. And then you can bring down Micah to help on either side to rush the passer. So it's just it's the depth. The depth is where it's going to be able to give you a chance to win. And it's kind of like what I said when we talk Mavs. If you want a chance to win the championship, you got to build up that bench, because that bench is what's going to end up helping you. You can't play your starters the whole game for all of the playoffs. You have to have a bench to be able to spell your starters and still be able to either carry to not lose ground or to even help gain ground if need be, if the starter's not. It's that's what's huge.
So I'm just thinking about this NASCAR up front lineup potentially.
Okay.
You got obviously Randy Gregory.
Mm-hmm.
You got Oso Digizua. You got Tank playing 3 technique, and then Mike on the edge. That's that. I got to get pressure on the corner.
So that would be nice, because the way that Tank plays the run game as well, like that might be the move. That might be the move right there. Move Tank to the inside, because
also that big boy. Also gonna pick up 2 dudes. So that big dude having a slender guy that's faster can kind of get in there and make some moves off of that double team that Oso is gonna probably draw. You got Tank on 1-on-1 against a guard, and then you got I would put Tank on the same side as Micah, and then put Randy on the same side as on the opposite side, like have Randy and Oso on one side, Tank and Micah on the other side. That's that NASCAR. I need to get to the quarterback. Listen, bro.
Hey, y'all. This is the closeout lineup right here.
Yes. We got even stop right here. We don't need to blitz. Like, yo, put them boys in coverage. We good. We got 4 guys. We good. Put them other 7 dudes back in coverage and let's go to work.
Yeah.
And I know you were talking about.
I want to see that.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? I think now that Donovan Wilson's back and healthy, I think you'll start to see what you talked about as far as having that other safety come down. I think we saw Jayron Kearse kind of doing that a little bit. Well, he's been doing it before, but I think we're starting to see him do a little bit more now. And I think we're having Donovan Wilson back in the lineup. He can play safety back there if need be, that they're going to probably start using Jayron more in that hybrid role that you're talking about, that they've kind of used Callum Neal for as well. And the thing about it too, like you talked about the linebacker depth, we still haven't seen Jabril Cox play any minutes. I mean, in outside special teams, because they're just that deep right now. They don't even need it. You cut Jalen, and there's still so much depth that Jabril is not getting on the field, which is not a bad thing. It's just what we talked about. If somebody goes down between injuries and COVID, you still have that depth to where your impact is not as bad as it could have been. So And then Laura, no, I'm not. This ain't the podcast for it, but boy, Jalen was looking rough in that Green Bay game. I'm just
that was all kinds of bad.
Yikes! He played like this at 14 or 19 snaps and was graded the second worst defender. Anyway,
who played?
Who was worse than that? So what I wanted to do now is just kind of look at the schedule because I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I'm looking at the schedule and I'm just like,
why not?
I mean, outside of Arizona, and obviously Cal won't disrespect Kansas City, but those are like, so I'll just go over. So first game out of the bye, Sunday night game against Minnesota at Minnesota, and then the following week is versus Denver at home, versus Atlanta at home, back on the road on Sunday to Kansas City. We have our Thanksgiving game against the Raiders. And then the following Thursday night is at New Orleans. And then at Washington, at the Giants, home against Washington, home against Arizona, at Philadelphia at the end of the season. Outside of Kansas City and Arizona, so, I mean, of course, there's obviously opportunities for slip-ups. And that Raiders game, who knows? The New Orleans game, who knows? But I'm looking at that's 4 potentially. 4 games. Even if you lose those 4 games, you're 12-5.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at
one person brought up a site. So with our weak division, they can basically win the division, but with those win all 4 those last 4 divisional games and 1 non-divisional game, and you're in the playoffs. Because that's 10 wins right there.
And that's the thing.
It's like that's insane.
That's absolutely right. However, number 1 seed sounds great.
Oh yeah,
especially knowing that there's only 1 bye now. One team gets a bye. And obviously you got your Arizonas, you got your Packers, you got your Rams. You have these teams that obviously are up there in terms of potential contenders. I don't think they got this kind of a schedule. Let me look
because Arizona by themselves have their division, right?
Exactly. So real quick, I'll just look. So Arizona,
we're just hoping for Tampa to slip up.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. You know what? You're right.
They got a pretty weak schedule, so that's who we need to slip up, because I think the only tough one they have is Buffalo.
So they got Chicago, then at New Orleans, at Washington, home against the Giants, at the Colts, at Atlanta, versus Buffalo, like you said. Home against that game is at home, by the way, against Buffalo. Home against New Orleans, at Carolina, at the Jets, and then back home against Carolina in the season. So, I think that might be your race right there. Because if you look at Green Bay's got a tough schedule. Green Bay has, after this, they have Washington coming up, and they have at Arizona, at Kansas City, home versus Seattle, at Minnesota, home versus the Rams, home versus the Bears, at Baltimore, home against Cleveland, home against Detroit, home against Minnesota, and then at Detroit at the end of the season. So that's a lot tougher of a schedule. And then for S and Giggles, Arizona has Houston coming up, and then home against Green Bay, at San Francisco, home against Carolina, at Seattle, at Chicago, home against the Rams, at Detroit, home against the Colts, again, the Cowboys in Dallas, and then Seattle close the season out. So it does look like it'll probably be, like you said, between Tampa and Dallas as far as if health stays the way it is and teams continue to play the way that they're playing at the trajectory they're playing at, it might be a 2-horse race.
Need Carolina to get off the schneid and put their stuff together.
Yeah, because I mean, man, I don't know where they outside of that Buffalo game. To your point, I don't know where they slip up at.
Exactly.
I don't know where they slip up at.
Yeah.
So that's because everybody was talking about how, and it's hard. You know, the Bucs just played on Thursday night at Philadelphia, and it was kind of hard. But my mind was like, I need Philadelphia to win this game because now it's bigger than the division. Like the division,
exactly.
You're already up by 3 games. 6 weeks into the season. This division, it's over with. Barring health, knock on wood. Barring health, being consistent. Even, I mean, we're not even healthy, and we're still, where we are. So, barring the health continuing to improve, the division's done. It's just a matter of seeding from that point on. And so, that's gonna be tough. Tampa.
Yeah.
How the hell does Tampa have an easy schedule when they won a division? So they should have division winners, and they still. Oh, they didn't win a division. That's what it is.
New Orleans won it last year.
Yeah, they Tampa didn't win a division last year.
Oh yeah, they did struggle and early on, and then they went on that run.
They were a wild card team.
Well, they got ran through. They did get ran through by the Rams. So that's good.
They did. But like, it was the Rams. I don't see like I wish they played Arizona this year, man. But because
the only way they would have been able to do that is playing the West. Like if they would have played the West, then that would have
helped tremendously. Yes, that would have been a huge help. So they lucked out. So that's it, man. That's what we gotta keep our eye on for the rest of the year. So if you're a Cowboys fan watching this, get familiar with Tampa's schedule because that's gonna be a team to beat. I think as far as it might be a 2-horse race for that 1 seed because Green Bay's schedule is a little bit too tough. The Rams schedule is tough. Arizona's schedule is tough. I mean, we're saying 2-horse, but I mean, Arizona may be a 3-horse race with them. They're beating teams handily. The Rams, we thought that was going to be a close game. They beat the brakes off of them. So, who knows? They did what they did last week without having a coach or offensive coordinator or a quarterback coach there. So, who knows? So, who knows, bro? They got a head of steam now. This Arizona and Green Bay game in a couple of weeks, that's going to be a huge game to see.
Blame the Vikings. All the kicker had to do was hit that
one game, man.
That one.
And that's why people say, they're undefeated. It's like, bro, they are, but should they be? Should they be?
All they had to do was hit that thing.
Yeah, and we all tied for the 1 seed right now, 5-1. So, man. So the last thing I wanted to talk about before we wrap this puppy up is just, is there anything in particular that you're looking for? I know we talked about the run defense, and so that's certainly something that we obviously want to see improve. Is there any particular, outside of the run defense, is there anything in particular that you're looking for in terms of improvement from where we are now to the end of the season that you feel like has to be better if we want to really be a formidable team going into next year, into January and hopefully February?
4th and 1 in red zone.
We haven't talked. Okay, you know what? Skirt. That real quick. I want to get your opinions on what everybody's been talking about as far as the coaching decisions. Because if I'm being honest with you, I'm not that mad at them, but I wanted to get your opinion. So there's a couple of things that were discussed. Clock management obviously is one because he does something weird every week. The one particular scenario in this game was the decision when they decided to kick the field goal to tie the game in the end of the fourth quarter. They had the 3rd and 25. Dak hits CD for 24 yards. And so there's that kind of nowhere, no man's land right there where it's 4th and 1. You have to decide, do I want to go for it? Do I want to kick the field goal? But they call a timeout almost immediately after the play. Yeah. Instead of which makes sense if you're going to go for a 4th down, but the fact that they decided to kick the field goal was like, why do you just let the clock run all the way down and then make sure there's no more time left after the field goal so that New England doesn't have a chance for either a kickoff return or something fluky that happens to get the win. So that was the time management thing. The 4th and 1 decision was a decision that people thought didn't make sense because they went for it early in the game on 4th and 1 on their own side of the field, but didn't want to do it on this side of the field. So there were a couple of decisions, and then I think it was 4th and 3 where they went for the 52-yard field goal that Zuerlein missed in the fourth quarter as well. So there were a couple of instances where people were questioning the decision making, as it seems to happen every week. So, what are your thoughts on those things? Did you agree? What were your general thoughts on those particular situations?
I understood not going for it on that last 4th and 1 is because you're at that point 1 for 3 or sitting at 50%. So at that point, it's like we're in field goal range, so might as well take it. I also think that they might not have been sure about the down and distance because, like on the TV and possibly on the field as well, it might have shown 2nd down, but on the board and it was supposed to be 3rd down because of the penalty. It was a lost down,
right?
So they could have not, but they could have thrown them off trying to figure out what the distance was. Is it 4th down as well, just to make sure? So that's why they ended up taking that time out. So that's why it's like, okay, I can get that one. Just want to make sure you get your ducks in a row before making that decision. When it came to that. That 4th and 1 at the beginning of the game, I'm not sure if they should have went for that because your offense is rolling. So it would have been basically like a 3 and out or whatever. What I'm saying is, you can put up points. Like this team has to hang with you, and you have a hell of a punter. Flip the field and make that team with a rookie quarterback march on you. So I think that the 4th and 1 early was more of a mistake than not going for it on 4th down late in the game. But yeah, I get the decisions as far as wanting to be ballsy and just going for a lot of it, and then also pulling back at times. So, but overall, I think this was actually a better managed game than what he had done before, especially against who you're going up against, because Belichick typically, can find those mistakes to be able to exploit and end up beating you. So the fact that he didn't cost us the game, and I feel like the decisions were thought out as far as if it was worth it, being able to make sure that it was worth it, because a lot of it was down the stretch was taking a chance you could end up losing the game. And with that Zuerlein kick, oh boy, came off that edge, something serious stuff.
It wasn't much you could do about that.
Yeah, it's like when I saw that, because it happened when he hit that the field goal before that miss to get to 20, Obo was close in too. And I think he was close when they got to 17.
Yeah.
So Obo off the edge, he had been coming in hot. So I understand missing that because you it's better to miss it than for it to get blocked than attempt for it to get returned. So it was hindsight did 2020. I think overall the decisions were decent for the most part. Just like I said, I wouldn't have went for it early, and to that point, probably would have ended up going for it late.
So I think I haven't heard him say this, but I was thinking, just kind of like you say in hindsight, I think it's possible that the first quarter one was okay. The past couple games we started out really slow. You know, is this something that we can do to say, hey, let's give ourselves the opportunity to get the ball rolling early. Let's get the momentum going because we've kind of been sluggish the past couple of games. And let me give you this as a vote of confidence to say we can do it. We can handle it. I think that may have been some of the reasoning behind that. And then when it didn't work, it was like, all right, well, we ain't doing this shit no more. And then one time they went to 4th and 1 to Zeke, and Zeke had that long run where he kind of ran towards the sideline to get that extra yard. But outside of that, I think that was the only one that they actually went for and got outside of the first attempt. And so I think he was kind of like, nah, not doing it no more. Because now the game is close and we don't want to have that bias in the butt. Of course, there's arguments about, it's 4th and 1, you pay Zeke this much money or you can not get 1 yard. Well, they tried in the first quarter and it worked. So, I think it's been easy to make McCarthy the punching bag in some of this stuff. And it's not to say that he's without blame, but I think
he definitely is.
Yeah, I think that we're so hypersensitive to him making mistakes that everything we're like, oh, he shouldn't have done that, or like it's kind of one of those things where it's just like we're gonna look at everything you do, and depending on how it works, we're gonna say it was the wrong decision. So, and like I said, not to say he's without blame because he's kind of earned that, that second look where people don't really trust his decision making. But I do feel like more likely than not, the decision in the first quarter was him trying to establish them, get them going, and give them that confidence to say, okay, we can get it done. We've been slow the first couple of games, or past couple of games, but let's get this ball rolling. We can get 1 yard. So there's obviously risk in all of that, where that could be kind of the bad omen that ends up being how the game goes the rest of the night. Or you build off of it and and work your way out of it. So it's tough because, like you said, I think it probably may just be that we're not used to having a good punter, and so we just kind of don't really know how that works. But to your point, field position is important, especially in those kind of games, because you don't want to give any advantage to the Patriots. And say you say about Mac Jones, that dude can play. I mean, he's not, he's not Herbert, rookie year, but he's getting it done. And, you give him a short field, they got McDaniels. Those guys can scheme up some things to get some things going. So it was a risk. I'm not mad at the risk, but we got to be more smart about the situations a little bit. And, do you really do the pros outweigh the cons on going for it that early in the game on the minus side of the field? I would say no, so I tend to agree with you there. But I wasn't mad at it per se. So I think one of the things too about McCarthy that people get upset about is just like it's just not consistent. Like if you're gonna be aggressive, be aggressive. If you're not gonna be aggressive, don't be aggressive. It seems like he kind of has a hard time gauging when it's good to be aggressive versus when it's not, and he almost has it backwards. Where we're like, no, why are you doing it now? You should have done it back then, or vice versa. So I think, there's going to be a lot of questioning of him moving forward. But again, like I said, for the third time, it ain't like he don't have no part of the blame. Like he's made some really dumb mistakes. In time management, I don't know if he needs to go to a class or what. But you did bring up a good point about maybe not knowing the down distance, which to me, like, somebody gotta know that. Like, somebody has to know that. And I get it. There was definitely some confusion because, like, on CBS, like, the marker on the field says second 25, but the little bar on the bottom line said third and 25. Yeah. So it was clearly that they really didn't know what was going on. So maybe on the sideline they didn't know either. To your point, if they thought it was 3rd and 1, you want to clock it or call timeout because you have the extra timeout in your pocket. So I get it. But man, like, it wouldn't seem as bad if, like, 2 other games this year you've had issues with figuring out how much time is on the clock. This is the first time it happened, and be like, oh no, well, okay, but hey, it's a trend now, bro. It's 3 out of the 6 games you've had issues with trying to figure out what's going on with the clock. Like, anyway, I cut you off on the last thing, but just you just give what you're looking at the rest of the way. Where is your area of focus moving forward for the rest of the season?
More on the defensive side. I want to see if they'll be able to stop people from having those long drives. Because once you hit playoff time, when you're dealing with the likes of Brady, Rodgers, folks like that, they can slow the game down, have long drives, and put up touchdowns. So that's what I need for the defense to do, is being able to stall people out and keep them off the board. Field goal, okay, that happens. We can put up touchdowns though. So that's where I want them to. That's what I'm gonna be paying attention to. Because if it's basically, I don't want anything that will be from the 25 to the end zone. So. And I don't want the drive being basically 75 to 99 yards.
Right.
If it reaches around there, so yeah, we got issues. But if it hits anything like 65 yards, it's like, okay. But yeah, I don't want them. Teams should start to continue having the 75-yard drives.
So 2 things for me. One thing, I think defense is, like you said, that's going to be on everybody's mind the rest of the year, I think, because I think offense, we pretty much we're good there. There's 2 things. One, I'm looking at the center exchange. I'm looking at, can they get that right? Can they figure that out? Because Dak, I think, has 6 fumbles this year already. Obviously not all on him, but I mean, that's something that can be problematic. When you're playing lesser teams, it doesn't really mean too much. You know, you have an opportunity to make up for it. But like you said, when you're playing the Rams and the Cardinals and the Packers, those upper echelon teams, you're not going to have drive to spare against them, particularly if your defense is not where we would like for it to be. You don't want to give those good teams who have good offenses and good quarterbacks more bites at the apple as far as possession goes. So I definitely want to see how they figure that piece of it out. And then also just seeing how the pieces that come back are implemented, because you have a lot of guys that are playing well in reserve spots that I feel like deserve to still be on the field. And so how do they incorporate the guys back? Like you talked about, Boss Man Fat coming in for the first time. Lyle Collins, he got his job. But on the defensive side of the ball, like your Tanks and your Neville Gallimores and those guys coming back, how are you incorporating those guys? Even in Michael Gallup, is it just you just insert him and Cedric Wilson just doesn't get any playing time anymore? Like how do you implement that going in, and do those pieces that are being put in affect the chemistry the way it is now? Because I gotta be honest, if y'all not vibing in well, you gotta get back out. Like you know what I mean? Like you already proven that what we have works. And so it is certainly a kind of like the rich get richer type of thing. But at the same time, it's like, how do those bodies throw off, because some guys kind of feed off of rhythm. And if you are taking them out of their rhythm as far as the reps they've kind of been used to getting, the rotation they've kind of been used to being in, because particularly like on a defensive line, those guys kind of come in shifts. And so you're used to playing with the guys that you're in with, and you kind of get an idea of, like, we're also playing with, either Justin Hamilton or however they have the lineup set up, they may have sort of a chemistry as far as that goes. Does putting Gallimore in that break that up? Does having Kelvin Joseph come in disrupt the flow of what Anthony Brown's been able to do? Because to me, I feel like if you get Kelvin Joseph back, I say back, he hasn't played yet, but when you get him in, to your point, you talked about moving him to the left side of the ball. And to me, if you do that, which I agree you should, then you can put Anthony Brown in the slot and you can have Jay Lugo sit on the bench, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the ideal situation. But does that affect Anthony Brown's psyche if you take him off of what he's, like you say, he's been playing well? Does Boston Fat coming in and moving him to slot affect his psyche? Because we know Anthony Brown, it's kind of one of those things where you don't know what you're going to get from him. So when you see he's doing well, you almost don't want to mess with it, because any kind of false move here or there could throw the rest of his game off. And so I'm interested to see how those, bringing those pieces back into what's been a well-oiled machine now, how that affects things moving forward. And, luckily we have lesser competition on the schedule that will kind of allow us the opportunity to work through some of the issues that may need to be ironed out with that transition. But at the same time, like, if we go 2 or 3 games and we're seeing things kind of drop off from where they were, I mean, I don't know. I think the only people that for sure get their spot back are Lyle, Michael Gallup, and Tank. Outside of that, it's a toss-up to me. So, I mean, we'll see how, and then I don't know. We haven't seen a lot of Nation Wright yet. I don't know if that's because they don't, believe in what he's doing, or if he's not ready. But we don't know that Kevin Joseph is ready yet, right? Like, I mean, we're kind of hoping he is, but we don't know. So he may not get worked in right away. So we'll see. I mean, obviously, like I think it's a good problem to have. We talked about that, where you have that kind of depth. It's not like, it's an issue where you have too many players to play. But I think it's just a matter of making sure that they can kind of figure out between Dan Quinn and those guys, how do we appropriately allocate these reps so that we're not interrupting the development of Osio Odighizuwa that has been playing well. Like, that rookie, the only way you get better is by reps. And so do we interrupt that, knowing Gallimore and him play the same position? So it's just, that's what I'm looking at. So ball security as far as the center position, can we get that issue figured out? And then how do we adequately get the newer guy or the healthier guys in the fold without as much of friction to the current lineup as possible? So good problems to have, it could be a lot worse. It could be a lot worse. We could be looking at draft picks like we were this time last year. All right, who are we going to have in this pick? So, anything else, man, do you want to touch on before we wrap this puppy up?
No, that was it. I had all the points.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for us. The Cowboys do have a bye this week, so we won't have a recap next week. But we will also have this week our Week 7 predictions, so look out for that. But appreciate you guys, man. As always, we'll keep wearing this shirt as long as things go well, so we'll keep finishing that fight. But guys, as always, like, share, subscribe, comment. Feel free to shout us out, man. We appreciate you guys. As always, don't forget to follow Ghost Son Geek as well. Don't forget to follow For Your Ambition as well. We got a lot of stuff coming out, so we're excited about that. Basketball season is about to tip off tomorrow night, so you're going to have a lot of basketball videos coming from us on Ghost Son Sports, so stay tuned, man. Thank you guys so much as always. We appreciate it. For Will, I'm Jay, and we are out.